Well, I mean, first of all, the main problem for the past several years, what we've done as Americans, we spent a lot of money we didn't have to buy foreign products that we can't afford. We've run up an enormous debt to the rest of the world. We've got nothing to show for it. You know, it's analogous to an individual. He loses his job, and instead of getting another job, he simply buys it.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
Today is April 10th, 2012. This is the Libertopian podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This is not a scheduled podcast, but I do have a few news items that I do want to tackle today on this podcast. One being the new Black Panther Party and their recent conference call where some of the leaders ranted and basically called for a Holocaust against all white people. I'm about to play a clip for you from that conference call where people were called white crackers, honkies. Somebody called somebody a turtle people. I've never heard of that racial slur before, but apparently it's a racial slur. I'm just not aware of it. I'm a white person. I've never been called that before. So I actually found that part comical, but the rest of it's not comical at all. The rest of it's very serious. These people are calling for violence. They are calling for a race war, and I don't want a race war. I want liberty and freedom for everyone. And I think that this is just balkanization and divide and conquer tactics being used by the left, being used by the government to make sure that the people will never get together and challenge the hegemony, the monopoly power of the state. So I will attempt to go ahead and play this clip and then come back and comment on it.
Black Power, Brother Sean. This is Sister Michelle, Chief of Staff for Tampa, St. Petersburg, chapter of the New Black Power. Black Power. I just want to say to all the listeners that's on this phone call, if you are having any doubts about getting suited, booted, and armed up for this race war that we in that has never ended, let me tell you something. The things that's about to happen to these honkies, these crackers, these pigs, these pink people, these motherfucking purple people, it has been long overdue.
Yeah, but what she said was right. We got to suit up and boot up. We got to suit up and boot up and get prepared for the war that we're in. This stuff got to boil over. And all your greats talked about there having to be bloodshed involved with revolution. True revolution means some bloodshed. So there's blood being spilled because there's a new life that is beyond this bloodshed. There's a new reality that is built upon your original African principles and spiritualities and values and norms that is beyond this bloodshed. But we got to go through it. And as the scriptures say, you got to cross, and we're going to have to cross the Red Sea. You're going to have to cross the Red Sea. I know y'all thought it was talking about some sea in some Middle Eastern part of the world. Hell no. We're talking about some blood. You're going to have to cross some blood and go through some blood and some battles. And there are those who wish they could stand in this hour to see the destruction of the devil's world and the devil's society. And I ain't talking about no dude underneath the ground with a pitchfork and pantyhose. I'm talking about that blonde-haired, blue-eyed, sometime brown-eyed Caucasian walking around with a mindset, a demonistic mindset, and the nature to do evil and brutality.
I say to everyone that is on this call right now, I'm coming out of the gates like that greyhound on that rabbit's ass. And his prize, my prize right now this evening is going to be the bounty, the arrest, dead or alive, for George Zimmerman. You feel me? To every brother, to every female, I am for violence if nonviolence means we continue postponing a solution to the American black man's problem just to avoid violence. You feel me? It's time to wake up. I don't know how else. It's in me to fight. It's in me to raise up soldiers. It's in me that every time my feet touch the ground, the state of Florida, these crackers, they scared. I'm telling you right now, I'm kind of pissed off right now that the state of Florida ain't on fire. This could not have happened in L.A. because some brothers up there are not scared to riot. This could not have happened in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the black men over there ain't scared to kill a cracker.
This is real. If we're attacked anywhere in the world, we would defend ourselves by any means necessary. We have proposed and we're pushing forward with a national strike and walkout on this cracking, on this beast, and on these bastards. We are proposing and pushing for our people that you hit them in the pocket where it hurts. You starve capitalism. Since this racism that's being perpetuated and this brutality that's being perpetuated and this murder that's being perpetuated is built on the table legs of capitalism, you got to starve capitalism. What you're saying is real. An active war has been declared on us. We don't have no choice but to fight. But I want to say that we have to be trained how to fight. See, the whole purpose of the maneuvers that's happening in Sanford is to train in self-defense, because many of us think we're prepared for a battle, just like many of us think we're prepared for a fight. But if you are not training, if you're not stocking up water, if you're not stocking up food, if you're not stocking up weapons and artillery and survival, books and gas masks and flashlights and canteens and ready-to-eat meals and all that, if you're not stocking that up, I don't know how serious we are right now. Absolutely, we want the complete removal of capitalism. Why? Because capitalism sets up a class structure and a class society, as I said in the beginning, of the haves and have-nots, that is the pivotal point is racism. It is racism that keeps and perpetuates a capitalistic motion. And so, yes, we want capitalism completely eradicated, especially from the minds and hearts and dealings of black people.
Wow. I do not have the words to describe what we just heard. Never mind, I do have the words. I just found them. These individuals are race-baiting, ignorant thugs. Anyone with a sound, logical mind can see that. This does not amount to protected free speech. This doesn't amount to protected free speech, but they will say that it does, but it doesn't. I will be back with economic news and insights of today. Alrighty guys, I am back on the Libertopian podcast this afternoon. The date is April 10th, 2012, and we just got done discussing the situation with the Black Panthers and their call for a race war. I'm done with that at this point in time. It's self-explanatory from what I can tell. Anyone with the brain can analyze that, use logic, and tell that these people are whack jobs. I don't really know how else to describe it. The next thing, though, that I want to talk about, before I went on break, I said that I was going to come back and discuss the economy. I was going to, but there are some breaking news that I actually do want to discuss. Rick Santorum has suspended his presidential campaign. This is extremely interesting, simply because, Santorum was the only one that could possibly beat Romney at this point in time. It appeared anyway that he was the only one that had a shot at beating Romney. And for whatever reason, he went ahead and shut down his campaign. There's some speculation that his child, who had been in the hospital with pneumonia, might have played a role in it. That's definitely a possibility. I also think that combined with the fact that most likely Romney offered him saw the weakness, I should say, and offered him some sort of position within the Romney cabinet should Romney be elected. So I think that that's interesting news as of right now. I'm not sure what that says for Newt Gingrich or Ron Paul. I'm a Ron Paul supporter. I've been a Ron Paul supporter for quite some time. He might be able to nab quite a few delegates. It won't be enough to get the nomination, but he could surprise some people and affect the platform at the party's convention. So hopefully he'll have the delegates to be able to at least affect the party's platform, and hopefully Romney isn't as big of a statist as I think he is. I'm probably wrong about that, though. He probably is as big of a statist as I think he is. So that's current news going on right now. I do want to kind of talk a little bit about the economy. This is more of a theory more so than news, but it's something that I hear constantly, and I just don't hear it from the left, I hear it from the right as well, and it's a misconception about the market economy. It's a misconception about capitalism, and the misconception is that capitalism is inherently flawed, that there are always booms and busts in capitalism, and capitalism leads to rampant consumerism, rampant materialism, but that is simply not true. Now, you can manipulate capitalism to promote all of those things, and that's where the money supply comes in. The Federal Reserve and central banks have consistently inflated the U.S. money supply. In fact, central banks all over the world have always, or have typically, promoted a policy of inflation, because for whatever reason they believe it will bring them some sort of prosperity, even though history tells us that it's the opposite, that the opposite is true, that it will not bring you some sort of prosperity. So I do want to address that just briefly, and my biggest point is this, that in the market economy you have people who save and invest, and you have people who spend and buy things. And everyone spends and buys things, and everyone should save and invest. Invest in productivity, increase productivity, which then leads to more wealth and the growing of the overall pie in the market economy. But what happens when you have a central bank is you lose that saving mechanism, because banks don't have to depend on depositors for savings. Interest rates are automatically pushed lower, because it's just basic logic. If you're borrowing money for a car loan, you want to get the lowest possible interest rate, correct? However, if you're saving money in the bank, you want to get the highest possible interest rate. That works the same with the central bank as well. There is no depositor, there is no saver with the central bank. They just print the money. The borrower is big mega banks, national banks, and these banks are constantly putting pressure on the Fed to keep interest rates low. This distorts the market economy. This distorts the price mechanism and the saving mechanism that is inherent in a market economy. Without these, you lose a balance in the market economy that is necessary for the natural order to progress. And in my opinion, this is what has led to the increased consumerism and materialism that we see, because when you show someone that through credit cards and through borrowing at artificially low interest rates, which also manipulate risk, you're also showing that person that, hey, you can buy something without producing anything. You can consume what you have not produced. By doing so, you've created a moral hazard. Ultimately, you create an immoral society out of that. Jefferson Davis, during the Civil War, noticed this as well. When the southern states printed too much money, it affected the morality of the people. He saw that consumerism was on the rise as well, because people were able to borrow money at artificially low rates because of the extra money being pumped into the supply. That is all I have on that point. I hope I addressed that misconception. I went over my time allotment just a little bit. I wanted to stay under 10 minutes. I apologize for that. Please subscribe to Libertopian Podcast on my YouTube channel. And thanks for listening and tuning in. This is Chad, the Libertopian Podcast. Have a good day.